Coming up on today's Locked On Senators, it's time for our Belleville Sens season in review.
And who better to bring on than the voice of the Belleville Senators calling all 72 games? It's our friend, David Foote.
We talk team, we talk prospects, and a whole lot more, and another daily roundup of the Stanley Cup playoffs. This is the Locked On Senators podcast. It's your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
I'm Jake Sanderson, and you're listening to Locked On Senators podcast.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
Welcome inside episode 782 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitan on the outskirts of enemy territory in Winnipeg, Manitoba, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Please like and subscribe wherever you download your podcasts, including on YouTube, where the best way you can help the show grow is to leave a comment. Today's comment is, which Belleville Senator are you most excited to see make the jump to the NHL, whether it's next fall or beyond? Who is your favorite Sens prospect? Today is Thursday, April 20th, and Pillzy, I'll get to yours in a minute. But man, we've got a great night of NHL Stanley Cup action on deck.
Every night has been a great night so far, but yes, game ones are over. And maybe this is a controversial opinion, Ross, but for me, game one is kind of meaningless. Someone's got to win the first game. It's how you react, and game two will be huge. I'm sure Leafs fans that are listening would love to hear that game one doesn't mean anything after they got beat down 7-3 at home. They're hoping to change things around tonight.
I think they're going to win this game.
You know what, Ross? I had the same feeling, but then I was like, oh yeah, this is the Toronto Maple Leafs. They do not react the way you would expect a team with that caliber of talent and expectations to react. So I will hold my judgment on that. But you know what I will do? On FanDuel, I'm hammering first to 5 shots for the Leafs. If they don't come out the gate flying, I don't know. They're in trouble.
And if they don't win the first to 5, go to FanDuel and hammer the Tampa Bay money line. Is what
there you go. Yeah.
So Tampa Bay on FanDuel right now is plus 140 going into tonight. So I think the Leafs are going to win, but you know that number is way too good. I'm going to be on that for the light.
Well, I think that number is kind of hanging in the balance of a Victor Hedman game time decision, though. That is massive for the income of the outcome of this game.
And not to get like serious about the Toronto Maple Leafs, but a lineup decision, and go check out Locked On Leafs if you want more of that. But they, for some reason, put Tavares on the wing and O'Reilly at center. It made absolutely no sense. It was mind-bogglingly stupid because the whole reason to get Ryan O'Reilly was to create depth down the middle. But they've now made that change. So it's Matthews on the top line, Tavares second, O'Reilly on the third line. And I think that's going to spread out a little bit of the offense. So I think from that standpoint, Tampa has 2 lines that can easily go toe-to-toe with the Leafs. But you get that Nick Paul line against Ryan O'Reilly, and we know matchups are going to be huge. How funny was that in game one? Like the first 2 minutes of the game was just, you change, okay, I'm going to match. Like the first 5 shifts were each 6 seconds long.
Yeah. I think I forget who was talking on Leafs radio, but he was saying that Cooper was playing chess while Keefe was playing checkers. Like that's what it seemed like, honestly.
Well, I don't know what Keefe was playing because he started the game with his third line and then put out his fourth and then back to his third. Like you have good players on the bench. I just probably used them. But we know that series is obviously going to be must-watch TV. What, 2 games into a few of these series as well. And I would have Genny Dadonov with 2 goals, #Sens Abroad. He gets the Sens Abroad player of the night, no?
Absolutely, yeah. I know a lot of people wrote him off, but you guys know I've been a Dadonov fan, and I knew he wasn't, he had a couple logs left on the fire there, and he's shown that over in Dallas.
Well, it wasn't going to be Philip Gustafsson for Sens Abroad of the night.
Can someone explain to me, and maybe Seth Tupal, our friend over at Locked on Wild, why would you switch goalies after Gus had a game like that? I I was searching Twitter like a madman, Ross, being like, oh my God, Gus got injured in warmups or in practice, or he slipped out of the shower or something. Like, how is he not in this game? I thought that was the easiest decision possible. And no offense, I love Marc-Andre Fleury, but yikes, he did not look good out there.
No, Dallas scores a 7 spot. They tie up that series at 1. The only series that's 2-0 is the Carolina Hurricanes over the New York Islanders. Bit of a controversial non-call in overtime. Where are you at with that?
I missed that overtime, so I don't know about the non-call you're talking about, to be honest.
Our buddy Mike Rupp did a breakdown on it. Basically, Martinook had his stick out like this, and Mayfield kind of hit it up, and Martinook, as he's skating away, the stick clips Mayfield in the face. He goes down. So Rupper's saying, well, he did it to himself, whereas Mike Johnson, MJ from TSN, comes in and is just like, well, you have to be in control of your stick. So he does think it was a penalty. So either way, the play went on, and Carolina, Jesper Fast scored in overtime. Hashtag Sens abroad. Stefan Nason gets a goal. Guy scored 37 points this regular season. Like, between him, Michael Amadio, Evgeny Dadonov, a lot of Sens cast off this year. In years past, it was the stars that got moved, were playing well. Now it's like these random castaways that are lighting it up. I'm expecting a Vlad Nemestikov hat trick tonight for the Winnipeg Jets.
Well, I told you that line looked really good to me, but quickly on that no call, that makes sense because I watched the replay and Mayfield's walking around with like his hand on his head, so something was up there when that goal gets scored. And the fun thing about the Stefan Nason goal, Ross, 1 goal, 0 shots on goal. Huh? I know we're not math guys here, but what?
Yeah, that was one where Sebastian Aho, whacked it right into his own net, hey?
Yeah, so that's you talk about contract negotiations for Stefan Nason. Well, my playoff shooting percentage, I got a goal and I didn't even take a shot.
That'll do. And the Edmonton Oilers tie their series up 4-2. They get a big win there. I thought they were going to blow it.
I thought so too, Ross.
They were out shooting LA 11-0 almost at the end of the first period. It was 2-0 Edmonton. The place was going bananas. That place looks like a great place to watch a game, by the way. Rogers Place in
that arena is incredible.
It's on the bucket list, Pillzy. Maybe on the way back from Vancouver we'll stop by. But no, it's got to be somewhere on that list. That atmosphere looked fantastic. But yeah, LA scores two bang bang, and yeah, good on the Oilers to bounce back. That Klimt Kostin goal 2 minutes into the third period really kind of pushed them over the top. Not a whole lot else from the hashtag Sens abroad world, although there were those two that we mentioned, also pretty funny stuff. But the last one, JG Pajot did a little bit of a whack on not Nino Niederreiter, that's former Kane. Teuvo Teravainen, similar alliteration on the names, but Teuvo Teravainen's got a broken hand, and after the game, Rod Brindamore is like, he tomahawk slashed it, he called the play, he was so upset, and it's like, I get what he's doing, and it's a tap for sure, he got him, and ask Mark Mathot, these taps can do worse than they look sometimes.
Big time.
But the power plays in the game were 6-0 for Carolina, and you won the game. And there was a controversial non-call on the play that they won the game. I'd probably just let that one simmer, Rod.
Yeah, that's fair. You know, coaches, though, he's not even thinking about the win. He's thinking about that one thing that he didn't like, and he's seething over that. So that's fair. Yeah, the Carolina Hurricane series kind of going as I expected.
Sorry, you said 2-1, 2-1, 2-1. That was 4-3.
Okay, 1 goal games. The
overhit. I wouldn't have guessed that going into the series.
Fair, but I'm really going to be hyped up to watch Jets Golden Knights here, because the Golden Knights, that's a franchise that kind of play is not acceptable, especially at home. So it'll be interesting to see if we get a bounce back. And any word on Ehlers coming back, Ross?
Yeah, he practiced with the team yesterday.
Let's go.
You said that line was great in game 1. Well, in all likelihood, it's going to be Ehlers up there, unless maybe you keep it together, because Niederreiter and Wheeler played well on either side of Nemestikov. But
start off Ehlers slower on maybe on a third line. Yeah.
Well, Adam Lowry might have been the best player on the ice.
He was solid.
Jets, like defensively against Jack. Eichel was nowhere to be seen in game 1.
Nope. As far as I'm concerned, he still has not played a playoff game.
And Mark Stone, I mean, we love him. We love him on this show. But my God, he looks like he's had back issues for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
He wasn't skating very fast.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's just the case with him.
And nobody wants to play up in the barn in Winnipeg. You heard Mark Mathot say it's one of the best home ice advantages in the league. And if they can bring a 2-0 series lead up to Winnipeg, oh boy. Anyways, great night of hockey coming up. The staggered starts
Oh,
can't, can't be better.
it's the best.
Leafs Lightning at 7, Devils Rangers at 7:30, Kraken Avalanche at 9:30, 10 o'clock Jets Golden Knights, maybe 10:30 by the time the pregame's done in Vegas, but still an amazing night of hockey.
Yeah, and I don't do this often, Ross, but I gotta praise NHL schedule makers because I don't like they just did not get it. I feel like my whole life it was never staggered starts, and you had to decide: am I watching this Eastern game or that Eastern game? And especially Ross with Sportsnet intermissions, I don't want to watch that. I don't want to watch Sportsnet intermissions. Send me back over to the other game. Keep me in the action. And from 7 o'clock till midnight, I'm watching hockey nonstop. It is awesome.
Congratulations to the NHL. Congratulations to the National Hockey League. No, it is great. But let's turn our attention to the American Hockey League. And for more of this, if you enjoy hate watching the Toronto Maple Leafs, follow us on Twitter at Sens Central. I'm doing it unapologetically now. I felt bad yesterday. Pillzy told me just keep doing your thing. The people are enjoying it. Obviously, it's tongue in cheek. The amount of replies we get are hysterical of the exact same. Where are the Senators? Well, the Sens and Leafs are tied in wins right now in Stanley Cup playoff games this season. And the Leaf pile, another night of it. Can't wait for that coming up on the docket. So Send Central, where you can find all that. But Pillzy, great conversation coming up with David Foote. The Belleville Senators, I mean, disappointing season as it would be. 31 wins, 31 losses, 10 losses past regulation. They finished last place in their division, but there's still a few bright spots we're able to shine a light on with our conversation with Footy. But I think that he also hit some nails on the head. And obviously Footy works with the team. We're not going to press him on questions that are going to, put him in an uncomfortable position. But I think he nailed it with this team needs more steady veterans that you look around the league. Logan Shaw. I know Max McCormick wasn't the same type of pro, and he probably had to move around before getting to a top 10 AHL scorer. But between Michael Carconi being a top 5 scorer, Christian Wolanin, these former Belleville Sens are just littered across the AHL producing. I think Belleville needs a couple more of those guys next year to be steady presences and contribute on the score sheet. Not taking away anything from Scott Sabrin and those veterans that they do have, but they need to be top line AHL veterans for this team to finally make the real playoffs, get past that play in and further.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, when it comes to Belleville Senators, there's no one better than David Foote. Like, Footy is the man over there. And we got to get him on the show more often, Ross. Maybe throughout the season next time. Because for people that, like the Belleville Senators, but you can't find the time to really focus in on them, he gets you caught up real quick. So Footy's the best.
Yeah, he's got his podcast now as well. So you can go check that out, the Belleville Sens podcast. And that's all coming up next here on Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Built Bar. It's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. You guys know I love Built Bar. You know Ross loves Built Bar. Well, I got a funny feeling that you're going to love Built Bar too, because most of these other protein bars, their texture is off. They got weird flavors. It doesn't taste good. You're forcing it down. Not Built Bar. They find out how to make their bars taste good, and then hey, how can we make these healthy? And they're always coming out with new stuff, Ross. I'm amazed every time I come to go to built.com, there's something new happening. Like right now, I'm on the website. They got peanut butter brownie balls. So these little packed protein balls that you get a bunch of them in there, and you get peanut butter brownie flavors. And there's so many different things that you can choose from at built.com. So head to the website today. And we're going to hook you guys up with a promo code. Use promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your next order at Built.com. Guys, one more time, go to Built.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON15 for 15% off your next order. It's Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar.
Today's episode is also brought to you by the GLEBE Central Pub. You know how much we love our friends over at the GLEBE Central Pub. 779 Bank Street is where you can find them. And when you go there, let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. this Saturday. Live music coming to the Glebe Central Pub. They always have great times at the Glebe Central Pub. I'm following along right now on social media at the Glebe Central Pub on Instagram. That's where you can find all their fun events that are happening. And the Glebe Central Pub has so many. I got caught up because that live music post was from a few weeks ago. I'm looking right now. Oh, speed dating on deck. Speed dating at the Glebe Central Pub. Tickets available. Head over to Glebe Central Pub and find that. I love all the different events at the Glebe Central Pub. They got wing night. Purchase of any beverage gets wings for 75 cents each. Steam whistle on special. They've got all sorts of specials. Go find them on social media as well. Huge Sens fans, go support them. Heart of the Glebe, 779 Bank Street. And when you go there, make sure you let them know that Locked On Senators sent you. All right, Pillzy, breaking news before we get to David Foote. Pillzy, oh my God, the shocking update from the NHL when it comes to the Ottawa Senators sale. This is not to shame Claire. She's doing her job, but how many updates can we get saying that there is no update? Pillzy, the NHL says several groups have shown robust interest and cleared the first stage when it comes to the Sens' new ownership group, but they maintain there is not a timeline in place for this process.
Yeah, I don't know. I am refraining from commenting on the no update updates at this time, Ross. I'll give you an update at a later time.
But that time is not.
I'm not telling you when that time is. No. It's just gonna be later. Yeah.
There's no time for the timeline, is
No.
what I was gonna say. All right, jokes aside, let's get to today's interview with the voice of the Belleville Senators. Here is David Foote. All right, we now welcome back a very good friend of the show. It's David Foote, the manager of broadcast and communications with the Belleville Senators, play-by-play voice. Footy, let me start there. I heard a rumor you went 72 for 72. Only you and Max Gannett played all 72 in the Belleville Sens organization this year. How did you do it? How did you keep that voice fresh?
It was a struggle by the end of the season. You can probably still hear it. It's a little raw right now, but a little bit of tea after the game. Plenty of fisherman's friends, in a holster basically, and we got through it. Max Gannett played 73 games this year, if you count his game with Ottawa as well. So incredible year for him. Maybe we'll touch on him a little bit later on.
Yeah, that's incredible. You did all 72 games. Had you done a full season before? I mean, I guess maybe some of the COVID shortened seasons, but is that your first full season?
First full one for me at this level for sure. Yeah, it was definitely an adventure. I always like to say the A in American Hockey League stands for adventure. It was an adventurous year in a lot of ways, but that was one of them for sure. Kind of getting that first full season experience, and it was tough for sure. But we made it. Here we are, and obviously we would like to go 73, 74, 75 plus, but you know what, the summer's here, and we're already looking ahead to next season. So
yeah, there's specific players who want to ask you about the team as well, but back to your broadcast perch all around the league. Which adventure is the biggest story you have from your year on the circuit?
In terms of, what do you guys want to know?
Broadcast location. I'm sure there's some old rinks you're going into in some of these towns, or maybe just a happenstance story of crossing someone on the street.
Cleveland is probably one of the best broadcast spots in the league for many reasons, right? NBA building, their presentation's incredible. Your perch just kind of at the front of their, it's not quite an upper bowl, right? But their second level there in Cleveland, the view is unbelievable. So that's pretty good. I always like Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto, classic AHL barn, and again, just a beautiful spot to call the game from. Rochester always holds a little bit of memories for me. That's where I did my first AHL game, so I always like going back to Rochester, and the staff there are incredible. Their equipment staff and their front office staff are awesome to deal with. Let's see, where else? Nothing else too crazy. Got to Milwaukee for the first time this year. Nice. So that was neat in the old University Wisconsin-Milwaukee Panthers Arena, got to Rockford for the first time, and then did the 11-hour bus ride home from there. Lots of different stories, but those are some of my favorite stops this year for sure.
Yeah. When you go to Binghamton, is there still kind of remnants of the Binghamton Senators there, or is that completely wiped out at this point?
Yeah, well, they don't have a team right now, right? So,
I
they've
thought
got
the Devils had a team there.
they're Utica. Utica's got the Devils now. Bingo has a federal league team. One of those other lower level teams, the Binghamton Black Bears. They have now, but if we're in Rochester, if we're in Syracuse, if we're anywhere in the vicinity of Binghamton, we get Sens fans at our games, either wearing new Belleville gear or their old Bingo stuff.
Nice.
So the connection to the Senators is definitely still prevalent around upstate New York. Absolutely.
All right, -1 for me there, not knowing that Binghamton doesn't have a AHL team anymore. I'll take a seat here, Ross.
No, Pillzy, you have a great question in your back pocket, and he's talking about the community around the team. So let's get you back even.
Okay, back on the ice here. Put me in, coach. All right. As
plus minus,
most people,
it's a team statistic anyway, right? So that's fine.
Yeah, true. I was just out on the ice for an empty net goal there. I was changing. It's not my fault. But as many people listening to the show know, Ross and I worked in Belleville for 2 seasons with the video production crew. That's where we met you, Footy, and that's where we have this great relationship. So we kind of have a connection to the people in the Bay of Quinte area. So I wanted to ask you and maybe give you a chance to shine some light on just like what's the connection between the Belleville Senators and the community? Like, have you really seen that grow over time? Because when we got there, it was still fairly new. Fans were still kind of warming up to the idea after the Bulls had left. What's the connection like between the Belleville Senators and the community now these days?
Great question, Pillzy.
Thank you.
I would say growing still. For sure. We just finished season number 6, but it is still a work in progress. I feel like this year and last year as well, we've been able to make pretty big strides as an organization to kind of strengthen that community connection. We had our Sens in School program start this year, and we hit dozens of schools and connected with young fans that way. A bunch of other, initiatives out in the community that we weren't really doing because of COVID or just the programs weren't in place before. And now we have that. We had a Belleville Bulls night this year, which, because if there's one thing, that we hear all the time is that people miss the Belleville Bulls.
Right.
And
those jerseys were awesome, by the way.
They were unreal, right? Yeah. That turned out amazing. And I think that really helped to just kind of remind people that, hey, we're a different league. It is a different team. It's not the same as junior, but there are some parallels. And at the end of the day, we're still the Bay of Quinte's, highest level hockey team. Obviously, this is still a junior hockey hotbed with the Dukes and the Golden Hawks, etc. But I think we've been growing that connection. And as you guys know, from working here and from living in the GTA, etc., and then coming this way, like there's a lot of Leaf fans out here, and we're trying to convert them as Chris Phillips said to us at our partnership event, one Leaf jersey at a time. We're converting fans here, and it's a slow process, but we're getting there. And I think if we can have a big off season here with our community crew out, and we can get our some familiar names back, I think that connection will continue to grow. And as you guys know, winning solves everything, right? So the best support we had was at the end of the season last year in the playoffs, and when this team was rolling in the 1920 season. So I think some strong results will certainly help to bring people in and to make them realize that, hey, yeah, we are the Senators affiliate, but at the end of the day, we're the hometown pro hockey team, and we want everyone in this area to be on board.
Well, Footy, as you know, Ryan Reynolds is a citizen. He listens to the show each and every day. But in all seriousness, in terms of the new ownership coming in, if they were to ask you, hey, we want to take Belleville to the next level, what would be your recommendation that you think the biggest room for growth is in the organization down there right now?
It's interesting because I think it's something that the organization can't do on its own. Like for me, I feel like our building is a little bit of a drawback. Like, I mean, you guys have worked here, you know what it's like. It's a great place to watch a game, but it's still kind of seems a little bit unfinished, and
Yeah.
the city owns the building, so they would need more partnership between the city and the Senators organization to basically say, hey, we're going to make improvements. We're either going to replace the green seats or we're going to put in more, just more stuff that we can add to the fan experience. Because I think from the hockey standpoint, the product is what it is, and it's good, and it's high intensity, fast paced hockey, and I think that the Senators have done an excellent job in putting good players here in Belleville. From a prospect standpoint, at least. So I think that's part of it, some improvements to the rink. And then kind of like what we talked about off air before we got going here, just one or two more game-breaking AHL veterans, guys who will be in Belleville all season long. They know that. The fans know that. And guys that the fans can kind of attach themselves to throughout the course of a season, because that's been one of the biggest struggles with all the up and down. Fans go, well, this guy had a great night, and 3 days later he's gone. I don't get to cheer for him anymore. So I think a little bit of stability in that sense would go a long way. But really, yeah, I think we're making good progress, and anything will help at this point. Any little extra bump would definitely help.
Yeah, Footy, I'm definitely with you on the green seats. Like, it just looks off. Like, don't get me wrong, I love CAA Arena, but
it's more divisive than you might think. Like, I'm sure if the decision comes to get rid of those, there's going to be a little bit of backlash and outcry outside.
What?
Oh yeah, because
people
it's the old
keep
Yardman,
the green
right?
Seats?
The people in Belleville. It's one of those things where, like, you think Yardman Arena or now CAA Arena, and you just go, the green seats were just a thing. But I feel like if they're going to get rid of them, auction them off like they do with all the old buildings, right? Make some money and see what you can do. But we'll see. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, but something like that. And then to mention the Ryan Reynolds thing, I watched all of the Welcome to Wrexham episodes.
Same.
And I think one of the neat things is that he's obviously, and Rob McElhaney have obviously realized the impact that a professional team can have on a small community. And to have a little bit of focus on that similar situation here in Belleville, like, I think that we're at the same level. Obviously, soccer, hockey are different, but like, that's what we see our team as, something that can galvanize the community, that can bring everyone together. And I think a little bit of investment in that. And as long as whoever the new owners are can kind of realize that and help us with that, I think that'll go a long way.
I think that was a perfect answer. I'm sure Ryan will be impressed. Ryan, give Footy a call. Make all
I
that
hope
happen.
he is. I hope he is.
Absolutely. So coming up next, let's talk about the players that have been in Belleville and what happened this roller coaster season. That's all coming up next. We're with David Foote, the voice of the Belleville Senators. You can follow Footy on air on Twitter and on Instagram, Footy on the air. More coming up on the other side. This is Locked On Senators.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. For a successful championship AHL team, you got to make sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle, guys. Every part needs to fit just right. So next time you need parts and accessories, there's only one place to go. Head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part fits your car perfectly the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage, and you can look for the green check to know that your part will fit, or you get your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game, and that you can have confidence when you shop on eBay Motors. With over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when you have all the right parts, and all those parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts. Get the right fit. Get the right prices on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. Check out ebaymotors.com.
All right, you're listening to Locked On Senators, Belleville Sens season recap edition. Footy, you're in the podcast game now too. People can go listen to Footy with the Belleville Sens podcast. Not a big deal. The last episode.
back in the podcast game, I should say, after a couple seasons of Around the A with Patrick Williams. Yeah, and it was really, I mean, we were a little late to the party getting the Belleville Sens podcast off the ground. I will say that. But now that it is, it's been pretty well received. I mean nowhere near the numbers that you boys are pumping out, but it's going pretty well. And a shameless plug for our 14th episode of the Belleville Sens podcast. We've got exit interviews with every player on the roster.
Wow.
Joel and I sat down. We sat down in the dressing room for about 4 hours and just grabbed everybody for a couple minutes as they rolled through. So you can find the podcast wherever you listen, and the time codes are there if you want to click and flip through to your favorite player. But we talked to everybody. There's some interesting summer plans coming up for some of these guys. I'll tell you that.
Can you give us a bit of a tease? Which one was the most interesting or surprising exit interview for you?
Well, I didn't know that Jacob Larson was getting married this summer, so that was surprising.
There you go.
Otherwise, they were pretty standard. Like, not to make the guys sound boring or anything like that, but they were pretty standard exit interviews. But there's some good stuff if you've got a favorite player you want to hear from, for sure.
Nice.
Who's been your favorite player to watch this season, or maybe for the fans too? Who gets them out of their seats most?
You know what? For me personally, and this maybe goes back to my OHL ties with the Belleville Bulls, and then growing up as an Oshawa Generals fan, and it's not a prospect, but I think Cole Castles was the player of the year for me. Just an incredible story. Starts the year in Sweden. Belleville runs into trouble. They need some help. Things weren't really going great for him, and he had to actually buy his way out of his contract in Sweden so he could come back to North America. So as he put it, he gambled on himself, came back and put up a career year, broke the 50-point mark for the first time as a professional. 39 assists, was just such a steady presence in the dressing room. Really, I think, helped some of these young guys along based on his experience. Was voted our Player's Choice Award winner. I think that's all you have to really know about him, the type of person he was. But it was just so fun to watch him kind of come out of his shell a little bit, show what he's really capable of. Egor Sokolov is always fun to watch because he just has so much fun while he's playing. Nobody likes to score goals more than Egor Sokolov. Really was pleased to see the success Angus Crookshank had this year after missing all of last season. And to lead our team in goals with 26 was really, really impressive. I could go on and on and on. I mean, there were so many guys. Considering the team had not a great season, there were so many guys who had really good individual years, and that kind of made it a lot more fun to follow along, even in some of those rough patches.
Yeah, talking about a guy that had a really good year, and we talked about it a bit before we got on off air, but Roby Jarventie, like, how crazy was it, the success that he was able to have in a short time? And the thing I want to get your opinion on most is what changed that they decided to move him from the wing to center? Because from my understanding, I didn't think he played much center at all before this season. Then they moved him to center. He was one of their top centermen, and he was lighting it up. Like, how did that all happen?
Yeah, first is generally on Rob. I think this was a big year of maturation for him. He went through that injury, missed about 30 games, and a tough injury as well. It was a knee injury that he suffered in Rockford, which was 3 weeks into the season, and then he was out for 30 games from there. Still managed to put up 30 points in 40 games, which is pretty impressive in its own right. So it was nice to kind of see him grow from that, learn what it takes to come back from a big injury, try to get himself back up to speed mid-season. And yeah, I think he had a really good year in that sense. In terms of him playing center, honestly, I think it was out of necessity. We had so many injuries when you have guys like Ridley Gregg's hurt, and Rourke Chartier's hurt, and Brendan Saulnier's hurt, and Phil Daou is hurt, and Mark Kastelik is up, right? There's nobody else to play center. So I think they look at him as kind of a bigger body guy. You can teach him how to use his size in the circle. There's enough good face-off guys on this team, Cole Castles being one of them, that they just thought, hey, let's put him in. He's played there a little bit. Let's see what we can teach him. I mean, Rob's 20 years old, 21 years old, still so young. He's pretty moldable. And if they get in there now, they can start teaching him how to be an effective center at the NHL level if they need that. It's just another tool that he'll have in his bag, along with the skill and the shot and everything else that he possesses.
All things equal, are you starting him on the wing if it's your decision next year, though?
You know what? I liked him. I liked him in the middle. It was kind of the same thing with Jake Lucchini last year when they started to move him into the middle a little bit more. Just that kind of freedom to roam and to get yourself open and to not be so worried about where you have to be in order to get the puck. I think obviously his strength is on the wing. That's what he's used to. That's where he's played the most. But if you're going to keep him here and you're going to keep trying to develop him and teach him another skill set, then why not throw him in the middle and see if he can find some more success? Because he really did have a pretty good season in the face-off circle once he got settled.
Amazing to think he's already played 114 games for the Belleville Senators with injuries included, as you mentioned, this year with the knee. But next season, huge for Roby Jarventie, I'd say. Pillzy, would you say it's as far as like, I don't know, I'm not going to say anything hyperbolic, but what do you think that we could see his ceiling as in the NHL level footy?
Tough to say. I'm not the best prognosticator of talent. I don't consider myself a scout by any means, and I don't like to I guess put that kind of thought on guys. I mean, obviously he's one of the top players on our team, ninth in scoring, and a couple of defensemen were in the mix there. So he's a middle six guy for sure, and maybe more if he can figure it out. And a lot of his scoring was done on the power play. Let's keep that in mind. So if he can figure out the 5-on-5 play, find some productivity there, then I like to say the sky's the limit for almost anybody in the lineup. But Roby obviously has that raw talent. We'll just see where it goes from for next. Hopefully he stays healthy all next season, right? He's locked up for 2 more years. Hopefully he gets through more than 40 games next year. Hopefully he gets his NHL look. He's playing well enough to get an NHL look and then go from there. And we'll see what 24-25 brings. But I think next season is kind of and I always come back to Drake Batherson, Josh Norris, and their paths where Drake played a full year here and then up and down a little bit and then gone. I think next year is that big key year in Belleville for Rob. And then the following year, hopefully that's where he goes, maybe back and forth twice, and then we don't see him again, and hopefully he's excelling for Ottawa.
Pillzy, trivia time. How many of Roby Jarventie's 16 goals this year were on the power play?
Ooh, Footy, do you know the answer to this?
I have it up, but I do know the answer.
Okay, 16 goals. How many were power play?
Yeah.
11.
12.
Ooh, that's close. Yeah.
12. So close. Price of right rules, though, you're good.
Yeah, all right, I'll take it. Yeah. I mean, that doesn't surprise me, though. The thing I always love about Jarventie is that release is absolutely lethal. Like, if he has any time in the slot and he gets a pass, it's gone. And that's one of those things where he can use that big frame, that big body. I think people forget how big Jarventie is. Ross, you were mentioning when you were calling the game and you saw him in the hallway, you're like, holy crap, that's Jarventie there. He's a big kid with a good shot.
Yeah, the baby face sometimes tricks you.
Yeah.
Well, and we saw even in Toronto the other day, like it doesn't have to be that big one-time clapper either that he can be successful with. He's got a real good wrist shot too, and he had one sneak through from the point the other day. So I think, again, it's just kind of rounding out the game, maybe improving on the dash 11 a little bit, getting better with the two-way game, which every AHL prospect who's trying to make that next jump has to do. There's definitely a little bit of room for improvement, but I think staying healthy and just getting confident and acting like you are the guy and you can score every time the puck is on your stick. That's what a lot of these young guys need to learn, and Rob's no different.
I think another guy in that mix is the one who went later on in that same second round in 2020, but a couple of years older, Egor Sokolov. Do you expect to see him back at all in Belleville?
I think if you listen to Pierre Dorion's interview that he did with me the other day in Toronto, he basically said that a good camp could see Egor in Ottawa next year. But the good camp is going to be the key. He's not going to walk onto that team, even as a bottom six guy. He's not going to just show up in camp and see his his name on the stall. He's going to have to earn it. And I think maybe now he's at that point where, let's say he starts in Belleville and gets off to a good start, he'll get a call. You won't have to wait until the spring, basically, to get his call up. He'll get one early next year if he doesn't prove himself in camp. And yeah, he's because, I mean, what more can you do here, right? MVP, man of the year, led the team in scoring, not too far off in terms of the league leaders in the points categories. So he doesn't have a whole lot left to prove here, but maybe does just have to steady himself a little bit. I think he's right there, though, as Pierre had told me the other day.
Yeah, I think it's time. Like he's done everything they've asked him to in Belleville, and everyone knows Egor's a big friend of the show. So we're hoping to see him up in Ottawa. That's for sure. And
franchise leader in points, goals, assists. I think he's
just
games
about
off.
Everything. It's going to be at a point soon where people here in Belleville go, Drake Batherson, who? When he was the guy forever, right? Forever for 5 years. So yeah, I think Soko he's just such an incredible dude. Like you guys know as well, he's so down to earth. He was saying he's trying to figure out if he's going to go back to Russia for a little bit this summer or not. I think now that he's got that taste, he's got the first NHL goal. Like there's blood in the water for Sokolov, man. Like he can smell it and he knows how close he is. So I would expect a big camp from him, and then. Who knows? Maybe he's here, maybe he's not. He told us in our exit interviews he doesn't want to see us in October. So we'll that probably says all it needs to say.
Don't take that too personal, Footy.
No, I never do.
Okay, good.
Hey, always a charmer, that Egor. So we're hoping for him. Obviously, Crooker's probably in that same boat where now he's got a full season under his belt. And the drive's there, the determination is there. If there's a step forward you saw in Crooker, obviously last year, tough, he didn't play much. But where would you say his biggest strength lays? And what would you say to him going into the summer in an exit interview type situation?
I think just his nose for the net is almost incomparable, right? Like you don't get many guys who are his size that play net front as well as he does. He sets a screen as good as guys who are 6'4". He just knows how to get in goalies' ways. He knows how to get a stick on the puck, or if he doesn't and the save gets made, he knows how to find rebounds and he finds them quickly. So I think his net front has been his biggest strength. In terms of what else he needs to do, again, I don't really. 47 points is pretty good in your rookie year. Again, I think it just comes along with doing that again, repeating that success now that you've found it once, gaining the confidence that comes with being successful and being a top guy in this league. I mean, Crooker finished among the top rookies in a lot of categories, including power play goals, points, goals. Shots on net. Like he's an offensive juggernaut for a little guy. And I'd just like to see him maybe cross 30 next year, 35, if he has a really good year, and just kind of, build up the confidence that we know he has, because he's obviously a confident guy. But let that shine a little bit more, if that makes sense, and be a key for Belleville here in hopefully making a playoff push next year, because that's another big thing. Ottawa's expected, I think, next season to make the playoffs, right? That's going to be the line, and that's going to trickle down right through the organization, that here in Belleville, missing the playoffs next year is going to be unacceptable. And these guys who are here will need to do as much as they can to make that happen.
Yeah, so that covers a lot of the forwards. I'd like to go to the back end now, Footy, and I think a lot of Sens fans, especially ones that aren't really following Belleville too closely, have a lot of questions about Jacob Bernard-Docker and Lassi Thomson. And I feel like whether it's fair or not, those two are often tied at the hip, as they're kind of the up-and-coming right-hand shot defense prospects that people are expecting one of these guys has to make it and crack their way into the Ottawa Senators lineup. What are you? What's your standpoint on those two guys? And is one kind of leading the way over the other right now?
Well, and again, just based on what Pierre said to me the other day, yes, Jacob Bernard-Docker has the edge over Lassi Thomson, and I think part of that is because when you get to the NHL, obviously the defense is so important, and that's where JBD excels. +4 on the season, which is pretty good. Over 41 games, back and forth. Like he's just so steady and he's quiet, and you only really notice him when he scores, which is not often. He's not the type of guy that's going to throw a massive hit, but positionally he's so sound. He blocks shots with the best of them, and I think he's just about ready. I mean, you guys saw him play in Ottawa, maybe watched his games there more than I was able to, and he doesn't seem out of place for the most part up there. I think he's learned a lot from playing 2 or 3 years now with Dylan Hetherington. Those guys trained together in the offseason. Heater is a great pro and has been able to pass along, I'm sure, a lot of knowledge to him on that. So on the defensive side, yeah, Jacob Bernard-Docker certainly has the edge for me. But then Lassi Thomson put up 33 points this year in 56 games. Was a big piece of Belleville's offense in producing from the back end. But there are, I guess, some worries still about maybe him taking himself out of position when he rushes up the ice, or maybe being a little over aggressive at the blue line when he should just put the puck in the corner and sit back and let the forecheckers go to work. The little things that, again, defenders have to learn in the NHL that maybe is different from a forward trying to make that jump. So I think JBD is probably more steady, more prepared on the defensive end. Lassi has a little bit more to learn, and at the same time, you love to see that kind of production from a defenseman. So I think between the two of them, it would almost come down to right now, what does Ottawa need more? Do they need somebody who can stay at home and protect the crease and block shots, or do they need someone who can move the puck, contribute on the power play, that sort of thing? Because, yeah, while they are tied together, like you say, they're very different players, and I think that's part of what's making this decision for the organization so difficult.
Decision is the key word, though, Footy. They have to make one at some point.
Yeah.
When you're looking at JBD needs a new contract. He's an RFA right now. Both Lassi Thomson and JBD will need waivers next year. And as an organization, you're able to kind of look it down a little bit. And Max Ganette's right there, got the first game, and he's a guy who won't need waivers next year. So you still have a bit of flexibility for a young guy coming up. But with those two, JBD in 2018 draft, Lassi the next year, clock's ticking right now with waivers coming up in the fall. So I like that breakdown from you there. And games played would also indicate they have JBD ahead with 19 NHL games this year. Lassi only got 2, and they both came early on as well. Early on in the season was a struggle for Belleville and Ottawa, the whole organization, really, after those first 2 wins in Laval to start the year, or against them. Where did you think it kind of went off the rails? Do you think it was like in Ottawa where they were close, but then it kind of just compounded? I think for that 7-game losing streak up in Ottawa, all of them were 1-goal losses, if not with an empty netter. Like, was it the same kind of vibe? And kind of take me through the lead up, because we haven't even touched on the coaching change midway through the season. And I think that played a huge role in kind of the flow of this season. Like, what was the vibe for you from day 1 to game 72?
I think just consistently inconsistent is kind of how I would describe our team. They only a couple times lost more than 2 games in a row, but only a couple times won more than 2 games in a row. Not able to get on that big heater that typically this team has been able to do at least once a season. The best stretch was in March, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight games with points in March. That was the big stretch for them. Outside of that, they didn't really have much opportunity to string wins together, and I think that hurt. The injuries were big. The goaltending, Matt Sogard and Kevin Mandelese were supposed to be the go-to guys here all season long, and that obviously didn't happen. There was too much jumping around in terms of finding guys to play net. There are just a lot of little things I think kind of came together to lead to that inconsistency that the group wasn't necessarily able to find. So.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing with the AHLs. You're at the mercy of your NHL team, and when Ottawa had so many injuries and they needed to call guys up and such, it was just wild. And if you're watching on YouTube, Ross has pulled up. Ross, I thought that was the team's stats. No, that's just the goalies. A lot of attendees played for the Belleville Senators this year. Final question for me, Footy, though, and Ross kind of hinted on it, but we got to get into this, as I think it was a massive story for Belleville, is the coaching change that happened mid-season. Now, we don't need to get into too many details about why Troy Mann was dismissed or anything. That's not really what I'm interested to hear from you. But how did it affect the players, the coaching switch? Now, I know a lot of them had high praise for David Bell and Sexton, and it seemed like they really support those coaches and had no issue with them kind of leading the ship for the rest of the season. But did you see a shift in players' play on ice and maybe attitudes after the change was made, or how did that all look from your vantage point?
Yeah, and I'm glad you're not asking about reasons, because I don't have much to tell you on that front. We really don't know outside of what's been put out in terms of it being an organizational decision.
Fair.
I think everybody was a little bit. It's funny because people would ask me, "Are you surprised that Troy Mann was let go?" And it's one of those situations where, like, yes, in a sense, because he had some longevity here, he had success, but at the end of the day, this is pro hockey, and coaches get fired. So surprised, yes, but not shocked. And I think the players kind of felt the same way in talking to them, and everybody just kind of realizes that this is it's a professional sports team. This is what happens. Everybody kind of has to focus on themselves. I will say it did seem to lighten the mood a little bit in the room, and there was certainly a little bit more of a focus on defensive structure. David Bell's a defenseman by trade. He has had his handprints on the D-corps here for the last 4 years, and I think we really did see them start to clamp down on the goals against. Winning a bunch of tight games down the stretch. Again, like I said, in March, and that was the biggest change for me, to kind of see a transition towards a little bit more of a defensive-minded approach. And then just generally, he's not that Troy wasn't a player's coach, but again, David Bell was a player for longer than Troy Mann played. And certainly, I think that came across, right? You come off a busy road trip, guys want, guys might want an optional skate sort of thing. He's a little bit more inclined to give the players what they want and maybe deviate from his plan a little bit in that sense. Otherwise, it was basically business as usual, and things kind of just continued to operate the way they were going.
Well, we're hoping next year you're still calling games at this time, Footy. It's too early to have the season wrapped up.
Yeah, me too.
72 games. Belleville finishes 7th place in the North Division, 4 points back of what would have been a play-in game to get back to the Calder Cup playoffs. Love what you had to say about the community. Love the insight on the players as well. And it's a busy summer down there, right? Was David Bell, the interim head coach? We'll see if he gets the full-time role. What happens with the veterans that hopefully get to come in and put some stability on a team that is full of youth and prospects. And when it all happens, you know that the Belleville Sens podcast is right there with David Foote, and we'll get Footy back on throughout the summer as well. All the best. Congratulations, man. 72 games. I'm serious. That's a huge accomplishment for your first of many in pro hockey. So keep up the great work, man. We're all following along on Twitter at Footy on the Air and on Instagram, same handle. Footy, always appreciate you, brother. We'll do this again soon.
Yeah, thanks, guys. And I do have to give a shout out to my team, who also worked 72 of 72 if they didn't travel as well. Joel Vanderland, Alex Smith on the socials. And should probably shout my wife Jenna out because she's been incredible in helping me get through 72 of 72. It was a challenge, to say the least, but looking forward to doing it again.
Stick taps to Footy for joining us. Always a fun conversation, and Pillzy's right. We do have to get Footy back on more often. Pillzy, it's grilling season. Make sure you head to farm2forkdelivery.ca and go get your grilling packages. They've got the bundles going. It's all set at Farm to Fork. Pillzy, all right. Right before we go, we need picks for tonight. Let's go check out FanDuel.
Ooh.
I feel like we got to do this more often for the
let's do it.
It's a Sens show, but we're having fun. The first round, always a little more fun when you have something on the line. Get way into the game, with the FanDuel Sportsbook. That's what we like to do here. I know I said it's prime season for a Leafs win. I'm hitting Tampa plus 140 tonight. Yeah. And I'm on the Rangers at plus money on the road as well. So I'm taking 2 road dogs. Remember the last time it was this slate, all 4 road teams took game 1.
Yep, that's true. Yeah, I already mentioned it. My big bet on the Leafs game is going to be Leafs' first 5 shots. I'm expecting them to come flying out of the gate. And the Rangers at plus money is crazy, Ross. So what I like to do is a unit and a half. We don't unit shame on this show, so whatever your unit is, that's cool. Play within your own limits. A unit and a half on Rangers money line, a unit on Rangers three-way money line, so regulation, and then half a unit on the puck line. That's my standard go-to betting system when I like a team. So I'll be doing that again for the New York Rangers tonight for sure.
I don't know how you could go against New York Rangers. I think I might even parlay the Rangers, Lightning, and Jets, just like I did for game one.
Ooh.
So if we do that here on FanDuel, like that's nice here on a parlay.
What odds are they showing for you? 1,100.
Plus 1,100. $5 would win you $55. You just need Tampa money line, Rangers money line, Jets money line.
Is this a Ross parlay of the day?
This is the Ross parlay of the day.
We'll workshop that name.
Reasonable Ross's recommendation.
Ooh, there we go.
A little R&R
Yeah.
for you on this fine Thursday. I love it. I'm seeing the board well. I love it.
Oh.
Pillzy, you know what I don't love? It was a cute story. I'm taking Avalanche puck line just for fun in the other game. I think that after losing at home, the defending champs, McKinnon, this guy hasn't eaten a carb since game one. There's no chance. So he's ready to go.
Yeah, true. I'm with you there. That'd be another one I would take a peek at the first 5 shots because they're going to come out with a vengeance.
Do you want to get nuts and put it in the parlay?
Ross, I have learned a lot in the parlay game, and one thing I will recommend is getting a 2-team parlay is hard enough. I would not recommend adding more into there. Although that's the fun of the parlay game. If you're feeling it, if you're feeling hot, the odds skyrocket with each thing you add onto there. So if you're feeling that hot about it, Ross, you go for it. But I like to stick to minimal parlays if I've learned
$2.50 on FanDuel wins you 61. So I'm in. Let's go. All 4 games. Let's call it. We got the Avalanche puck line. We got the Tampa Bay Lightning money line, Rangers money line, Jets money line. Let's get crazy. If that hits, Pillzy, I'll feel bad because I think your parlay of the day were like 1 for 70.
Oh, it was terrible.
21.
Yeah.
Let's bring back Pillzy's parlay of the day for our next FanDuel
For
ad.
laughs, yeah.
For our next FanDuel ad, and it's going to hit. I'm going to ride.
Ooh, okay.
Final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts are, I hope you guys enjoyed that interview with David Foote. Belleville is an intriguing team. Like, there's so many different things that are going to happen in this offseason for them, and I think they're set up for success. They just, I don't want to say are unlucky because every team goes through injuries and every AHL team is at the mercy of their NHL team. But man, it just seems like they're always just right there, but they can't make that push. So we're hoping they have a big offseason and can make that push next season.
Need playoffs. Need playoffs.
Need them.
Get the community round up. Get that. Playoffs is the name of the season next year for the entire organization. But for today, we say goodbye. We'll have more to break down on tomorrow's show. But for Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan, and this has been the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day.